Chapter 71 Dugu Bo's Choice, Swallowing the Dragon with a Snake. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Guangling soften his stance, Dugu Yan felt a little awkward. Knowing the real reason for his change in attitude from Hanli, she realized it was all because of her recent oath, a level 98 super Douluo, the most powerful person she'd ever met. She gave Guangling an embarrassed bow, apologizing for her earlier childish behavior. Even if she had a couple more grandfathers, they wouldn't stand a chance against someone like him. Alright, don't worry about me. Just listen to what Shaoli tells you to do, Guangling said, waving his hand and stepping aside. He could tell his presence made the little girl uncomfortable. Hanli looked at the grandfather and granddaughter staring back at him, neither offering a greeting. After noticing Dugu Yan's flushed face, he turned to Dugu Bo. Senior, could you take Sister Yan back to the platform first? She can't handle the Yin-Yang Eye's energy for long. Staying here too long could cause her some problems. Also, build a small wooden house for her. She can stay there for a while, Hanli added. Shoot, I almost forgot. Dugu Bo slapped his forehead, quickly grabbing Dugu Yan's arm and heading towards the platform. Need a hand? Guangling, who had been eavesdropping, couldn't resist asking as he watched them leave in a hurry. No thanks, master. You just relax. I can get up there myself now. Hanli gave Guangling a mysterious smile, then placed his hands down. Red flames erupted from his palms and soles, propelling him into the air and towards the platform, astonishing Guangling. Back on the platform, Dugu Bo had just set Dugu Yan down when he sensed a strange energy fluctuation behind him, accompanied by a loud noise. Dugu Yan heard it too and turned around curiously. They both watched as Hanli flew directly towards them, red flames blasting from his hands and feet. He stopped abruptly just a few feet away, landing gracefully. What kind of soul skill is that? How can you fly? That they both asked at the same time, staring at Hanli in disbelief. It's nothing, really. Just a little trick using the fire element. Nothing special, Hanli replied with a shy smile. A self-created soul skill, that they exchanged a look, asking in unison. Yeah, but the requirements are pretty high. You need really good control over fire and a strong mental state. It's not something I can just teach anyone. Hanli saw the gleam in their eyes and added, knowing exactly what they were thinking. Oh, they both said, disappointment evident in their voices. Dugu Yan wasn't ready to give up that easily. She blinked her eyes, smiled sweetly, and said, little brother Hanli, Grandpa and I are practically your people now. Surely you wouldn't mind teaching us a few little tricks we could learn in the future, right? Hanli glanced at her, taken aback by her words. Where did that come from? And how could she change her attitude so quickly? Wasn't she supposed to be the cold type? And what did she mean by his people? That sounded way too suggestive. And little brother. Just wait until I'm older, Hanli was internally complaining, but his face remained calm. He ignored her words and advances. We'll talk about that later. If you're capable, I don't mind teaching you. For now, let's focus on evolving your martial soul. Dugu Yan, a little put out by his disregard for her charm, immediately dropped her act and listened intently. Senior, the process for evolving your martial soul is the same as before, so I won't go into detail. But I do want to get your opinion on something, Hanli said, turning to Dugu Bo. Dugu Bo looked confused. Opinion? I don't have an opinion. Just do what you think is best. Is there a problem? No, you misunderstand, Hanli said, shaking his head to reassure them. What I want to ask is, do you want to evolve your martial soul into a dragon, or keep the snake form? We have a choice. Dugu Bo asked, surprised. Of course. Don't forget my ice and fire dragon bow, Hanli replied with a smile. Dugu Bo's eyes lit up, and he blurted out, definitely a snake. What's so great about dragons, anyway? Besides, I know the green phosphorus snake pretty well. Even if it evolved into a dragon, it might not be stronger than the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'd rather stick with what I know and master the snake spirit. Maybe my Dugu family will become the ultimate snake spirit masters, just as good as any top beast spirit. Yeah, Grandpa's right. If we're gonna do it, let's be the best. Dugu Yan added, her eyes shining with excitement as she envisioned a bright future. Right, this lady is ambitious, Han Li thought to himself. Alright, that's settled then. When the time comes, I'll help suppress the dragon's aura, so you can devour it more easily, Han Li said to Dugu Bo seriously. With your help, I'll be even more confident, Dugu Bo replied with a grin, stroking his beard proudly. By the way, this won't have any negative effect on you, will it? Dugu Bo asked, looking worriedly at Han Li's hands. After a day and night of suppression, the two-color dragon scales on the back of Han Li's hands had mostly disappeared. However, the skin there was still darker than the rest, which was why Dugu Yan hadn't noticed before. It's fine. Actually, the confrontation might give me a chance to draw out any lingering dragon energy, helping me recover faster, Han Li said. This was one of the reasons he had brought it up. He wasn't going to take advantage of his future partners and friends just to benefit himself. Really? That's great. It's a win-win. I don't know how that brain of yours works, kid, but it's useful. Dugu Bo said, completely relieved after observing Han Li's expression. Han Li wouldn't lie about something this important. This was the conclusion he had reached after talking with Guangling. Chapter 72 Adjustment and Recovery, Martial Spirit Evolution begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing they just met and confirmed things, Dugu Yan, who only had a basic understanding of what was going on, was itching to ask more. Alright, let's talk about it over dinner. First, we need to build a cabin, or you might be sleeping under the stars tonight. Han Li pointed to the darkening sky. Oh, right. Dugu Yan remembered the urgency. She definitely didn't want to rough it outdoors. Guangling landed beside them. Being soul masters, finding materials was easy. In half an hour, they had a cabin. Han Li even pulled out some flat stones from his storage bracer to use as beds and furniture. After they finished, Guangling produced the food he prepared, and the four of them had dinner, talking and laughing. With Dugu Yan there, the other three had to rehash some details. She was constantly amazed, her eyes wide with wonder. Time flew by, and 6 days passed in a blink. During that time, Dugu Bo's body had been through the ringer, but after some serious TLC, he'd finally regained enough strength to evolve his martial soul. It was showtime. A low growl escaped Dugu Bo's lips. Seeing she was calmer, the three floated to the ground. Nearly an hour crawled by. Dugu Bo's brow furrowed with pain, but thankfully his breathing and vitals seemed stable. If it would affect him later, he was ready to ditch it, even if it meant losing power. He was spooked by the poison. He also wanted to find a safe method for Dugu Yan to evolve her martial soul in the future, even if it wasn't super strong. Of course, if you can't handle it, bail out. I'll take care of the rest. Saving your life comes first, Han Li stressed. Dugu Yan had gotten a little more comfortable with Han Li and Guangling over the past few days. Even though they spent most of their time cultivating, they still took breaks during meals and to check on Dugu Bo. She'd take the opportunity to chat. Alright, let's do this. Dugu Yan was totally up for it. She was intrigued by Han Li. After a few days, she'd figured out how to get his attention. If they missed this window, Han Li worried Dugu Bo's body wouldn't hold out. And if problems arose, Han Li's medical knowledge was based on rare ingredients. Time was of the essence. Dugu Bo, who'd rehearsed it 1,000,000 times, nodded to the mentor and student without hesitation. He grabbed the 9th grade dragon Ganoderma, water, stripped off the leaves, and shoved it in his mouth, chewing and swallowing. Kid, prep the food inside and plate it. Lunch is on the way, Guangling said, tossing over a small ring containing food. After re-examining Dugu Bo, Han Li gave the thumbs up. He glanced at Dugu Yan, who looked more nervous than Dugu Bo, and said, Yan, hang out on the platform. We'll stay with you. You'll be fine. Okay, I'll be waiting here. You got this, Grandpa. He also had a strong desire to share and be praised. He always acted cool, but the smile in his eyes and the upturned corners of his mouth gave him away. "How's it going?" Dugu Bo and Dugu Yan asked. On edge, Hanli saw Dugu Bo as a strange dude. He was an oddball in the whole Doi world. After a quick breakfast, the four gathered on the platform. Hanli liked to build suspense before dropping the info. He seemed to enjoy the anticipation. Thankfully, that move saved him. The poison was locked inside and didn't spread. Otherwise, with his weak resistance, he might have died. The moment the two energies met, an illusory dragon roar echoed inside the ice and fire dragon Bao and Dugu Bo, and the green giant snake behind Dugu Bo seemed riled up, roaring at the two below. Then, he closed his eyes and focused on refining the medicine. Dugu Yan glanced at the two, her tense expression relaxing a bit. "Okay," she replied quietly. "Now, melt it for me." The pearl was ringed with some dark green liquid. That was the stubborn poison he'd forced out. At best, the Danju could be used as a one-shot weapon of mass destruction. That was their conclusion after talking it over. She was worried about her grandfather, of course, but it was also Dugu Bo's way of encouraging her. Being tied to Hanli was a good thing. More contact could only help. Plus, Dugu Bo wanted to tweak his martial soul structure during the evolution. Dugu Bo pounded his chest confidently. The Danju inside him was similar to the soul core from 10,000 years later, but maybe because it was unconscious, and he was mostly trying to avoid poison, so, while the Danju had a connection to him, it couldn't help him cultivate. It was useless. Martial soul possession. Got it, Dugu Bo replied instantly. The three comforted her in their own ways, easing her anxiety. "Don't sweat it, Yen Yen. Grandpa's got this." Dugu Bo muttered, his eyes narrowing, his body radiating coldness. A ghostly green snake rose behind him, hissing and flicking its tongue. Hanli and Guangling watched without a word. This was just the start, and they hoped it would go smoothly. This was the plan they'd made, but Hanli reiterated it. Suddenly, Dugu Bo opened his eyes and his mouth, and a green Danju shot out. Guangling and Hanli heard him and stopped watching. They summoned their martial souls. One shot an icy light at the Danju, and the other cranked up his martial soul aura and slammed it down on Dugu Bo. Seeing Dugu Bo was ready, Hanli held his tongue. Roar! Hanli didn't try to talk him out of it. First, the martial soul evolution he proposed was an alternative way to change Dugu Bo. Second, he didn't know how the soul core was condensed. He didn't like time bombs. He preferred controllable power, even if it was weaker. It's looking good. The toxins are suppressed, and everything is stable for now. When the time is right, you just need to merge those poisons with your Danju. Chapter 73 Crazy Martial Soul Transformation Plan, Ruthless Dugu Bo. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing this, Dugu Bo and Hanli were pleased, not surprised. They had discussed stimulating the martial soul's unique traits in advance. Dugu Bo nodded to Hanli, sensing the potent medicinal energy within him. Without hesitation, he leaped to the open area behind them and activated his martial soul's true form. Instantly, a 30-meter-long, green snake as thick as a water tank materialized, ready for its transformation. Hanli remained put, his right eye flashing red as he retracted his martial soul. "Shaoli. What's wrong?" Guangling asked, surprised. This wasn't part of their plan. "I think I overestimated the 9th-grade dragon G. Maybe it's also because Senior Dugu's martial soul has evolved. He's the king of snakes. He's doing better than expected and doesn't need my help," Hanli replied, sounding relieved. "What about your aura?" Guangling frowned. "It's still being stimulated a little. I can take it easy and recover faster. Besides, there's Sister Yen. She might need my help more," Hanli replied with a smile. "Okay, good." Guangling turned his attention to the bead he had frozen in mid-air. The bead was much darker than before. Its soul power was fluctuating more intensely, but still under control. "Just wait, it should be soon. Look, Senior Dugu's taking the chance to transform his martial soul structure." Hanli pointed to the jade phosphorus snake king, whose body was now tinged with light blue. "He's ruthless. He killed all the poisonous snakes around here. The day before yesterday, when he couldn't find any, he started dismantling his own little green snakes, Guangling said, sighing at the sight of the massive snake. Yeah, Senior Dugu is definitely ruthless, especially to himself. Hanli nodded in agreement, recalling Dugu Bo's crazy plan. Originally, Hanli had intended to use the fairy grass to strengthen Dugu Bo's poison sac and improve his control. In the future, Dugu Bo would just need to monitor how he activated the poison. After all, Dugu Bo was already a titled Douluo. The potential for improvement in his martial soul's poison was limited. He just needed the fairy grass to manage the backlash and re-regulate his body. Instead of taking risks, it would be better to focus on safely using the poison without harming himself. As for Dugu Yan, Hanli had planned to help her obtain the 8 spider lance later. The external soul bone would directly solve her blood inheritance problem and even enhance it, but Dugu Bo had other ideas for Dugu Yan's evolution. He wanted to preserve as much of the green phosphorus snake's toxicity as possible during her evolution, strengthening the venom glands and sacs through the fairy grass. Ideally, he wanted to isolate them, preventing the toxins from interfering with her internal systems and soul power flow. If that wasn't possible, he would settle for directly abandoning the venom glands altogether. Hanli and Guangling exchanged a look, slightly unnerved. Even Hanli was impressed by his idea. With the fairy grass as a foundation, Dugu Bo was essentially trying to artificially alter the structure of his martial soul. Wasn't he afraid of it collapsing? When Hanli raised this point, Dugu Bo dismissed it, explaining that he had already altered his martial soul structure before, though subtly. He also shared the origin of his idea. When he was younger, he met a soul master whose body couldn't handle absorbing a soul ring, resulting in a similar change to his martial soul. After the frog spirit merged with the failed to absorb toad spirit ring, similar venom glands appeared on the spirit body. The soul master struggled with the change and consciously hid and repositioned the venom glands while hunting for spirit rings. He even considered using the venom of poisonous snakes to change his fate. He failed to find spirit rings and, before he died, shared his experience with Dugu Bo, who was also seeking spirit rings. Dugu Bo drew inspiration from this encounter. Later, he strengthened and adjusted the green phosphorus snake's venom glands by obtaining spirit rings, creating unique techniques and attacks. However, he overdid it, exceeding his spirit's limits and causing the Dugu family's tragedy. So, the green phosphorus snake martial soul inherited by the Dugu family, starting with Dugu Bo, had become different from ordinary green phosphorus snake spirit masters. That's why he dared to try again. Perhaps this explained how Dugu Bo evolved into the green phosphorus snake king, a higher-level martial soul, and became a titled Douluo. As they talked, Dugu Bo made his move. With a roar, 2 massive wings sprouted from the sides and back of the snake's upper body, resembling eagle wings but covered in feathery green scales. Think of the Ting snake. Release the Danju. I should be able to control it. The giant green snake turned its head, speaking in human words. All right. Guangling immediately pushed the pill, encased in ice, toward the snake. Instead of swallowing the Danju, Dugu Bo waved his new wings, creating an energy cycle with it. Soon, the light green wings darkened, turning almost black under the Danju's influence, which then vanished completely. Shaoli, did he succeed? Guangling asked, seeing Han Li's confusion. Yes. Senior Dugu appears to have condensed all his poison glands and attack abilities into his back wings, creating a separate cycle. The soul power doesn't participate in the poison's operation, but only briefly merges with it on the wings when he's using his skills. He won't be poisoned just by using his soul power anymore. But he'll still be poisoned if he continues using his original attack method. Han Li's right eye lit up, observing the soul power within the snake, and he spoke with a touch of helplessness. So, he used a quasi-immortal grass to extract the poison glands from his martial soul and replace them with wings. Now, the wings are his poison sacs and weapons. He'll hurt himself or others the same way. But his body and soul won't be poisonous anymore, right? Guangling summarized. Yes, Master, you're right, Han Li confirmed. Hey, don't say it like that. The massive snake seemed to have overheard their exchange, dissolving its martial soul form and flashing to them in a green light. Chapter 74 Is Dugu Bo the real son of destiny? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Guangling and Hanli both stared, stunned, at the figure suddenly appearing before them. It was Dugu Bo, still in his grey robes, but now his hair and beard were jet black, and his face looked like he'd gotten a complete makeover. Every wrinkle had vanished, making him look decades younger. In just over an hour, he transformed from a grumpy old man into a handsome middle-aged dude. If they hadn't witnessed his martial soul's evolution firsthand, the master and disciple would never have believed they were looking at the same person. Seeing Guangling open his mouth, ready to reignite their earlier argument, Hanli sighed and quickly stepped between them. Hey, how about we head up first? Yan's waiting, and we don't want her to worry. We can talk all this over together up there. Fine. They both nodded, sprouting wings from their backs and soaring towards the platform above. Hanli glanced at the two already airborne, sighed softly, and slowly floated upwards to join them. On the platform, Dugu Yan gazed at the transformed Dugu Bo, uncertainly asking, "Grandpa?" Yan, of course it's me. What do you think? Did you see? Grandpa pulled it off and even got wings so I can take you flying someday. Dugu Bo, wings still extended, waved them back and forth like he was showing off, secretly relishing the fact that Guangling had previously pointed out his inability to fly in front of his granddaughter. Guangling rolled his eyes, but seeing Dugu Yan nearby, he bit his tongue and refrained from any sarcastic remarks. It really is you, Grandpa. You just look so young all of a sudden. Dugu Yan, used to her grandfather's ancient appearance, was still a little thrown off. She didn't rush to hug him as she usually did, but still wore a happy smile. Ha ha ha, Grandpa's poison's been neutralized, his body's recovering, and he's naturally getting younger. Dugu Bo laughed heartily. He hadn't felt this happy in years. Congratulations, Grandpa. You don't have to worry about your martial soul backfiring anymore. Dugu Yan looked at Dugu Bo, who was chattering like a teenager, and spoke sweetly. Congrats, Senior, Hanli added quietly. All right, enough standing around. Everyone, sit down. Guangling had already snagged a chair and was settling in, gesturing for the others to join him. Once everyone was seated, Dugu Bo looked at the three pairs of eyes fixed on him and chuckled. Okay, I know you've got questions. Fire away, one at a time. Me first. Dugu Yan piped up eagerly, claiming the first question. Alright, Yan, let's hear it. Dugu Bo looked at her fondly. Grandpa, what's the deal with the wings? Dugu Yan had wanted to ask earlier, but Guangling had cut her off, so she'd been holding it in. The wings? It's a freak accident of the martial soul's evolution. I wasn't expecting them, but after completely absorbing the potion, the martial soul just sprouted them. Honestly, it's a good thing, and it actually benefits me. The plan moved forward, so I kept them. Dugu Bo pondered for a moment and answered seriously. Does that mean I might get wings someday, too? Dugu Yan asked excitedly. Dugu Bo saw his granddaughter's hopeful face and glanced at Hanli. He hadn't yet seen what Hanli had prepared for Dugu Yan, so he hesitated to answer definitively. Hanli caught his subtle cue and nodded in confirmation. Dugu Bo visibly relaxed, smiled, looked at Dugu Yan, and nodded enthusiastically. Yes. Dugu Yan couldn't help but pump her fist in the air. She'd be able to fly one day. Senior, even after your martial soul evolved, you still retain such potent toxicity. Isn't that a bit risky? Or did something happen during the evolution that we don't know about? Hanli asked cautiously. Hearing Hanli bring this up, a grin spread across Dugu Bo's face. This was why he'd been so eager to show off his martial soul's true form when he'd heard Guangling talking to Hanli earlier. Speaking of which, Hanli, I really owe you a debt of gratitude. That fairy grass you gave me was way more potent than I expected. Dugu Bo stood up sincerely, pulling Dugu Yan up with him, holding her in place despite her confusion, and bowed deeply. Hanli scrambled to dodge the bow, but was still forced to accept it. Senior, come on now, let's talk normally. I can't handle a gesture like that. Nonsense, you deserve it. Dugu Bo insisted seriously. Yan, you remember this, your grandpa and I are alive today because of Hanli. You're not to ever have a bad thought about him, understand? Dugu Bo turned to his granddaughter, his expression more serious than ever. Dugu Yan stared blankly at her grandfather, then at Hanli, and nodded solemnly, indicating that she understood. Hanli didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What was this? Even if you're thanking me, you should at least explain why. I'm still completely in the dark. How about we all sit down and talk this out? With you three standing, I'm starting to feel left out. Guangling sipped his tea and placed the cup back on the table. He wasn't quite sure what was going on, but that didn't mean he couldn't enjoy the show. Right. Dugu Bo turned to look at him and sat down again. Let's take a seat, Yen. Hanli glanced at Dugu Yan, who still seemed a bit dazed, and prompted her. Oh, okay. Dugu Yan nodded and sat back down. Senior. Maybe now's the time to fill me in. I'm still scratching my head here. What role did that water-attributed 9-rank dragon ginseng play in your evolution? Hanli looked at Dugu Bo, genuinely curious for an explanation. So that's what it's called. 9-rank dragon ginseng. Dugu Bo murmured to himself, then composed himself and looked at the three of them, beginning his explanation. That dragon-like energy it had was pretty impressive. Not quite as powerful as what I sensed in your martial soul, Hanli, but definitely on par with the blue lightning tyrant dragon. His expression turned serious, and he continued, but the water attribute attached to it, though weak, was extraordinary. Just a sliver of that essence turned me into this. As he spoke, he once again channeled his martial soul, and a ball of light blue soul power appeared in his hand, reaching out towards the center of the group. Purification effect. Guangling stared at the mass of soul power for a long time. It seemed familiar, yet different. He asked, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. Yes, purification. Pure, unadulterated purification, purging all negative effects. Of course, I only inherited a tiny fraction of it. The soul power attributes haven't completely changed, and the recovery is pretty slow, but it guarantees that I won't suffer from toxic side effects, and my resistance to negative effects might even be stronger in the future. As he finished, Dugu Bo scratched his head sheepishly, but Hanli was already lost in thought. What kind of chosen one was Dugu Bo? He needed to nudge his inner deity to see if it had given the wrong guy all his luck. Dugu Bo barely nibbled on something that wasn't even a true fairy grass, and his martial soul evolved, somehow resembling his flying snake from memory. The main point is, he forcefully squeezed out a weakened version of ultimate water, completely eradicated the poison, and even amplified the side effects on his granddaughter to an epic degree. And himself? To evolve a martial soul, he had to get eroded by the blood and aura of a long-dead dragon king, unable to reach the divine level in one fell swoop. Was he reading the wrong script? For a moment, Hanli began to seriously doubt everything. Chapter 75 The Subjective Initiative of Martial Spirit Evolution. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shaoli. You okay? Guangling gave Hanli a nudge. He'd been lost in thought ever since Dugu Bo had finished talking. Huh? Yeah, I'm fine. Just thinking. Hanli snapped back to attention and answered distractedly. Something important again? Guangling asked, his expression tightening. He scrutinized his prized apprentice, making sure everything was all right. He was relieved, feeling his master's concern. Hanli felt a warmth spread through him. He chuckled. Nah, don't worry, master. It's just that senior's words reminded me of something I brought up before. The 9-grade Longji mutated because of the ice and fire eyes. It got me wondering if, since I inherited the power of purification, I might be able to turn ice into water and develop a similar ability down the line. Hey, that's a good point. My ice elemental power isn't exactly weak. Maybe I could pull it off too. Guangling's eyes lit up, clearly intrigued by the idea, probably not gonna happen, Han Li thought to himself, remembering that the Guanling Divine Bao inherited the innate cold properties of ice. But he kept his opinion to himself, let him tinker around with it. Who knows, maybe he'll stumble onto something new. Dugu Bo's a prime example, Dugu Bo's basically my muscle now. His strength is my strength. Call it good luck, Han Li thought, reassuring himself. Well, congratulations again, senior. Looks like you're on the fast track to becoming a super Douluo. Han Li looked at Dugu Bo, a strange glint in his eyes. It felt like he'd fished around in a little stream and pulled out a top-shelf treasure. Ha! That's right. And now that I've broken through to level 93, I'm definitely catching up to you at 95. Don't worry, I'm your bodyguard until I kick the bucket. Dugu Bo roared with laughter, then pledged his loyalty with gratitude. As senior says, now I can just go and cause trouble. Han Li quipped with a grin. Ha ha ha, I'm not signing up for that, unless your master's in on it too. Dugu Bo retorted, grinning. If I'm in, what else do you need? Guangling chimed in with a playful scowl, then smiled. They spent some time asking more questions, and Dugu Bo's post-breakthrough excitement started to fade. Oh, hey, Shaoli, when your martial soul evolved, it only drew out part of that dragon-like aura. Want me to see if my purification power can mess with your martial soul? Dugu Bo suddenly asked. Probably won't do anything. After all, your ability comes from the ice and fire eyes. But sure, why not? Han Li held out his hand to Dugu Bo. As expected, Dugu Bo's soul power wandered around his body without any effect. Dugu Bo couldn't help but shake his head with a sigh. These ice and fire eyes are magical and terrifying all at once. Everyone nodded in agreement, and the atmosphere suddenly turned somber. Seeing that they'd all fallen silent, Han Li jumped in. Hey, senior, Sister Yan's situation is still different from yours. She can't control her martial soul body like you can. Did you figure out a specific process for your evolution? Can you walk us through it? Guangling and Dugu Yan both turned their attention to Dugu Bo. Dugu Bo gathered his thoughts and began to speak. I can't give you a step-by-step guide, but I'm pretty sure Yan will follow a similar evolutionary path to mine. First off, our earlier idea of stimulating the martial soul's characteristics was spot on. I noticed my martial soul was more active than usual and more closely linked to me. Then, try not to refine the medicinal power purely on instinct. Keep using your martial soul to try and devour that energy. Devour it with the martial soul. How do you devour it? Is there a specific soul power route? When I absorbed the fairy grass, I didn't feel anything. Seeing that he was getting more and more cryptic, Guangling couldn't help but interrupt. Dugu Bo ignored the question and answered earnestly, I don't know. The soul power's route was no different from usual. I just had this one thought in my head, swallow the dragon with the snake. Then, bam! It worked. He went on, the first time my martial soul evolved, I was totally lost. Next thing I knew, the martial soul had become the Jade Phosphorus Snake King. It was the same this time. Hey, Little Li, didn't you let your martial soul take the lead in swallowing things when you evolved? Ask him if you don't believe me. Han Li nodded. Dugu Bo's description was spot on. He'd been in the same boat. After realizing that the remaining will in it wanted to break through the martial soul, he refused to let other things pollute the martial soul, so he chose to actively refine it, and the ice and fire Bao did indeed choose to devour and evolve as he thought. Then why didn't I notice anything? Guangling looked totally confused. Maybe it's because the types of fairy grass are different. Master, your plant only has pure ice elements. Even though it's exposed to the aura of the ice and fire eyes, maybe the star anise ice grass actively rejects other auras as it grows. Han Li guessed. Well, that's definitely possible. Dugu Bo thought about most of the herbs Han Li had collected, which didn't have the aura of dragons. He nodded in agreement. So, what you're saying is that this girl basically has to roll the dice. Let's hope she gets lucky. Guangling shook his head, not very optimistic that Dugu Yan could pull off a carbon copy of Dugu Bo's feat. Well, yeah, but it's better than flying blind. Dugu Bo didn't argue. He just turned to Dugu Yan with a smile. Actually, it's not that bad. You're both overthinking it. For Sister Yan, whether she evolves towards the same martial soul as Senior or naturally turns into a dragon martial soul, it's still a major improvement. At least she won't be stuck with the green phosphorus snake martial soul. And unlike Senior, her martial soul toxin is still dormant. Plus, she's deliberately adjusted her soul skills. While her innate fetal poison isn't easy to wipe out completely, it doesn't need to be. She doesn't need anyone to intervene. As long as she evolves successfully, she can suppress the toxin with her new martial soul. Unless she insists on following the same path as Senior, the problem's already solved. Hanli was a little baffled by Guangling and Dugu Bo's words. They'd subconsciously forgotten that Dugu Yan's martial soul was currently just the green phosphorus snake, a run-of-the-mill, high-level martial soul. Any evolution would be a win. That's true. Dugu Bo and Guangling finally realized that they had subconsciously been applying Dugu Bo's situation to Dugu Yan, and their perspective was off. Chapter 76 The Whereabouts of the Soul Beast with the Third Soul Skill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, let's drop that subject for now. Guangling wrapped up the heavy conversation and looked at them. I'm heading back to Tiando City this afternoon to check on any leads regarding that soul beast Xiao Li's been looking for. You stay here and keep an eye on them. And while you're at it, work on your cultivation and give your granddaughter some support, help her chill out a bit. He paused, glanced at Hanli, and added, her soul ring potion should be arriving soon too. When it does, have Xiao Li guide her on how to take it. If she can strengthen herself more before her martial soul evolves, her chances of success will be better. Hanli understood and nodded. He'd been wanting to bring that up himself. Since Guangling mentioned it, he just agreed. Then I appreciate you taking the time. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, those two kids are safe. A flash of gratitude crossed Dugu Bo's face. Guangling waved him off, already tired of hearing the same reassurances. Later that afternoon, after watching Hanli return to his cultivation, Guangling said goodbye to Dugu Bo and flew towards Tiando City. Inside the Tiando City Spirit Hall, Guangling, disguised, used Salisa's token to enter his office without a hitch. High Priest, I've got the information you asked for. Salis jumped up to greet him and immediately shared the news Guangling wanted. Oh. Tell me about this soul beast. What is it and what are the specifics? Guangling skipped the pleasantries, found a seat, and waited for an answer. It's been a real pain to find a soul beast that fits your description, but my team pulled out all the stops. Luckily, just yesterday, while I was going through the reports, I stumbled upon one that might work. Salis made sure to emphasize the effort involved before respectfully handing over a piece of paper. Here's what we know. See if it's what you're looking for. Guangling took the paper and began to read. Blue Shadow Condor. That rings a bell. I think I've heard of it before. He muttered, continuing to read. The Blue Shadow Condor is the fastest flying eagle. It's known for its incredible speed and sharp talons, which can kill with a single strike. It can also manipulate its weight to fly even faster. On top of that, it has excellent tracking abilities. Once it locks onto a target, there's no escape, no matter how fast they are. Extreme speed, weight manipulation, wind element. Guangling snapped his fingers, finally remembering where he'd heard of it. Qinghuan had mentioned it a while back, saying he'd run into a blue shadow condor while hunting but hadn't been able to catch it because he didn't need a third soul ring at the time. He'd regretted letting it get away ever since. The speed and weight manipulation are both perfect for Xiao Li. The wind element shouldn't be an issue, either. It won't clash with his attributes. It might not be ideal with ice and fire, though. Perfect, that's the one. Have you pinpointed its location yet? Guangling put away the paper, nodded in satisfaction, and asked. Not yet, I'm afraid. Salas answered cautiously. Seeing that Guangling wasn't upset, he quickly added, but I've already sent word to my contacts. The last sighting of a blue shadow condor was about 2 weeks ago in the Star Do forest, but it disappeared quickly. If we focus on that area, we should be able to get a better idea within a week, maybe even sooner. Salas wanted to speed things up, so he planned to offer a hefty bonus to anyone who could find it. Guangling knew this guy was going to try and squeeze his subordinates. No rush. Let's say half a month. And don't send anyone too deep into the forest. I don't want any unnecessary casualties. Yes, High Priest. Salas breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't really want to push his people too hard. Oh, by the way, how's His Highness been lately? Guangling changed the subject. Nothing out of the ordinary. He skipped a day of official duties, claimed to be under the weather, but my sources tell me he just said that as a cover for a breakthrough. Salas knew Guangling would ask. They seemed to be close, so he was happy to share what he knew. A breakthrough? Guangling smiled, assuming Xiaoxue had successfully absorbed the fairy grass. Alright, I'm heading out. Just keep me updated on the blue shadow condor. I'll check back in about 2 weeks. Guangling stood up and walked towards the door. Oh, and tell your people to be discreet. We don't want to scare it off. He turned around and added. Yes, High Priest, I'll pass it on. Salas bowed and left quickly, eager to follow Guangling's instructions. Guangling felt good about getting the lead on the soul beast Hanli needed and made great time on the trip back to Sunset Forest. Shaoli, come out here. I've got news about your third soul ring. As soon as Guangling landed in the basin near the Yin-Yang well of ice and fire, he yelled toward Han Li's stone chamber. Han Li recognized the voice, stopped cultivating, got up, pushed aside the vines at the entrance, and walked out, looking a little annoyed. Luckily, the meridians on Douluo Continent are pretty wide, so he can stop whenever he wants. Otherwise, with Guangling's methods, he would have ended up spitting blood and bursting a vein. Master, what kind of soul beast is it? Han Li asked. Here, read this. I think it'll be a great fit. Even your uncle Qinghuan couldn't catch it back then. Guangling handed over the paper. Blue Shadow Divine Eagle. The name sounded vaguely familiar. He took a deep breath and read the paper. When he was finished, he nodded, remembering something about a divine eagle Douluo who could match the speed of a level 97 Douluo with his own level 99 speed, but he hadn't paid much attention to it at the time. Reading the information, he started to get excited about the prospect. Chapter 77 The Introduction to the External Soul Bone, Han Li's Choice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How's it hanging? Not bad, huh? When I get back to Wuhuan City, I'm gonna rub this in your old master's face. This is the soul beast that got away from him back in the day. Guangling, seeing what his apprentice was up to, couldn't resist a jab. Thanks, master. I really think the blue shadow condor is a great fit for me. Maybe I can even snag its wings. That would seriously boost my flying speed, cut down on energy, and make up for my current shortcomings. Han Li grinned, carefully stowing away the paper. Whatever makes you happy. Guangling couldn't help but roll his eyes. The kid was still thinking too small. Who could possibly be tougher than Little Li? He mentally compared him, unsure, **, better not dwell on that. It felt disrespectful to his brother, and Xiao Shuer was just too sweet. Forget it. Qian Xuanji and Bibi Dong couldn't hold a candle to Little Li. Switching his frame of reference, Guangling instantly felt better. Oh yeah, Little Li, after we wrap things up here, looks like we're heading back to Star Forest. That's where the green shadow condor was last spotted. They'll probably narrow down the area in about 2 weeks, so it will be about a month, which should give you time to recover by then. Guangling, remembering something, filled Han Li in, **Star Forest, **, alright, just this once. After that, it's straight back to Wuhuan City. Han Li tweaked his plans, mentally rehearsing his conversation with Dugu Bo and his granddaughter. So, what's the play with those two? Guangling lowered his voice, leaning in. I'm thinking of taking Dugu Yan back to Wuhuan City. What do you think, master? Han Li looked up, seeking his mentor's blessing. No skin off my nose. You just not afraid Xiu'er will get her nose out of joint if you bring her back? Guangling winked, relishing the moment. What are you even talking about, master? Han Li gave his master a weary look. The old guy just couldn't resist stirring the pot. I'm planning on training her. With the 9th grade Longji Foundation, she'll be a force to be reckoned with down the line. Of course, Han Li was leaving something out. He'd already lined up an external soul bone to give as a gift like that should buy him some quality time, and he hoped that Dugu Bo wouldn't object. He'd originally planned to spend a while in Tiando, building a connection, but he'd been stuck purifying his martial soul around the clock. No time for romance, plus, the 3rd soul ring required a trip back to Star Do Forest, gobbling up even more time. Even he felt like this was a waste, a bit of a drag, so, after this whole mess was cleared up, Dugu Yan would be a soul master pronto. If he wanted to squeeze every last drop of profit, he needed to grab the external soul bone first. The relationship building would have to wait, and Wuhuan City seemed like the best place for it. Besides, he was angling to steal this girl away. This was love territory, and he wasn't about to make a bridal gown for someone else. Alright, it's your call. Guangling nodded, seeing the logic, but sighed inwardly. Looks like Xiaoxue might be in trouble. Well, cross that bridge when we come to it. They weren't likely to run into each other, all Qian Xuanji's fault. Why'd you have to go and hatch some half-baked scheme to steal the country before you kicked the bucket? Now look what's happened. Not only has Xiaoxue's talent been squandered, but Guangling's future son-in-law has gone missing, and that crazy Bibi Dong, just you wait. When we get back, I'll have literally sick his apprentice on you to blow off some steam. By the way, master, I need to ask you one more thing. Han Li fixed Guangling with a gaze. Spit it out. Get Bishop Salas to rustle up a few criminals or fallen soul masters who need soul ring promotion, you know, the real nasty kind. Soul masters, or even better, entire soul sections. When you head to Star Do Forest, bring them along. A flicker of something cruel danced in Han Li's eyes. Huh? Little Li, why are you bringing this up all of a sudden? Guangling frowned, studying him with a hint of concern. He was worried that the martial soul's erosion might have left some lingering effects, twisting Han Li in a bad way. It's just fate, I guess. Right after I decided to head to Star Do Forest, I had this strong feeling that I should do this. Han Li swallowed, avoiding Guangling's gaze. He couldn't exactly tell his master that he wanted these people as guides for absorbing soul rings and attached soul bones, so he could seize them again. Don't worry, master, I'm not a fan of taking lives for kicks. There might be a chance to use them this time. When we come out of the Star Do Forest, these people will go right back to the local spirit hall. Han Li added, trying to sound convincing. Whatever, they're just scum, they're already dead. But, Little Li, are you sure you haven't been affected in any way? Guangling scrutinized Han Li, then asked cautiously. 100%, master. I'll swear on my martial soul. I'll even agree to a full inspection by the Great Enshrinement when we get back. Han Li felt the weight of Guangling's concern, meeting his gaze head-on. Nah, I trust you. Guangling held his gaze for a long moment before shaking his head and smiling. I know you've got your secrets, and I'm not gonna pry. As long as you don't cross the line, I'll pretend I didn't see anything. But you need to remember, you can't fall. Got it? Otherwise, I'll take you out myself. Guangling's tone turned steely, and it was the first time Han Li had seen his master so serious. Yes, I understand, master. Han Li nodded solemnly. Alright, good. I'll help you sort this out, then. Guanling's expression softened. Cool. Get back to your training. You might want to let Dugu Bo know about this, too. Guanling tacked on, as if it was an afterthought. Master, seriously, I'm fine. Hanli, already halfway to the door, turned back to look at Guanling, mounting a half-hearted protest. Just get back to training, kid. I'm always watching you. Guanling grinned, shooing away Hanli, who looked like he wanted to say something else. As Hanli disappeared back into the stone chamber, Guanling turned, fixing his gaze on the direction of the ice and fire eyes. A cold light flickered in his eyes, and it was impossible to say what he was thinking. Hanli slumped back down, cross-legged, and sighed, no surprise that Guanling was suspicious. Some things were just too hard to explain. The key to the externally attached soul bone was that it had to absorb the soul ring simultaneously. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had to resort to this trick. As for Guanling's suggestion of letting Dugu Bo handle it, Hanli was sure the old guy could pull it off, but knowing his style, who knew who the unlucky soul master would be? While Hanli could be ruthless, he wasn't about to let innocent people suffer for him. He felt better about taking the heat himself and choosing people who deserved to die. Maybe it was just hypocrisy. Hanli smiled, clearing his head, and plunged back into his cultivation. Chapter 78 I didn't expect you, Dugu Yan, to be a fan of Bibi Dong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It wasn't until evening that Hanli decided to stop practicing and wake up. Man, being hungry is the bane of cultivation. Just like Guanling, even though he's practically an outlaw, he still needs to eat on a regular schedule, and he eats a ton. His stomach growling, Hanli headed to the top of the platform. The smell of food hit him as soon as he got there. Guanling and Dugu Yan were already waiting. Where's Grandpa? Hanli asked. He said there was some soul beast nearby with really good meat. He went to catch it and cook it up. Should be back any minute, Dugu Yan replied, not looking up. Right then, Dugu Bo's voice boomed through the air, I'm back. What's the rush? Perfect timing, senior. I just finished my training, Hanli said with a smile. Just in time for you to try some venison. Bagged a little one today, so I thought I'd show off my skills. Dugu Bo winked at the master and apprentice, letting them know he was taking over. Dinner was lively, filled with conversation. Yep, Hanli confirmed Dugu Bo's cooking was indeed top-notch. Seriously delicious. After dinner, instead of splitting up, they grabbed some lawn chairs and chilled out, enjoying the cool evening breeze and the starry sky. Senior, Master brought the secret medicine today. Tomorrow, I'll be getting ready to help Sister Yen take it, Hanli said, turning to Dugu Bo. Need any help? Just let me know, Dugu Bo said, sitting up a bit. Nah, not really. It's not risky. Just, might taste pretty bad. You better get prepared. After taking the medicine, Sister Yan's probably gonna need a bath, like, right away. You should have plenty of hot water ready, Hanli added with a smile. Okay, no problem, Dugu Bo said confidently. Also, senior, after Sister Yan's martial soul evolves, Master and I will probably be heading out. I've found my third soul ring, so I'll most likely be going to Douluo Forest. What are your and Sister Yan's plans? Hanli asked casually, like it was just normal conversation. Dugu Bo and Dugu Yan looked at each other, surprised. They'd been so caught up in the moment, they hadn't thought about it. Are you heading straight back to Spirit Hall after this? Dugu Bo asked, sitting up straight. Probably. I've been gone for a while. Time to head back, Guanling mumbled, making his position clear. Yeah, Master and I feel the same way. Tiendo's nice, but it's not really our place, Hanli agreed. Dugu Bo didn't answer right away. He looked at his granddaughter, then at Hanli, lost in thought. Finally, he spoke. Shaoli, normally, if I've decided to follow you, I should go to Spirit Hall with you. I don't have any real ties to the Tiendo Empire. Got some businesses here and there, but nothing major. But I still owe a big favor here that needs to be paid back. How about Yen Yen goes with you guys first? It'll take me, at most, a year, no, half a year, to settle things. What do you think? Dugu Bo asked tentatively. It's your call, senior. We agreed before that you're just responsible for protecting me. You don't have to follow us, and I won't restrict your freedom. Besides, when I return to Spirit Hall, there is no danger. Go about your business. Don't worry about it. As for Sister Yan. Hanli leaned back and looked at Dugu Yan, who was already looking at him. He grinned. Sister Yan, what do you think? Should you come back to Spirit Hall with me, or wait for Senior? I'll go with you. I'll join the Spirit Hall directly, Dugu Yan replied. Hanli was surprised. Seeing his surprise, Dugu Yan added, actually, I've wanted to visit Spirit Hall for a long time. I heard the current pope is a woman, and I'd love to see her. I've been planning to join for a while, but the guys from the Tiendo Empire are too weak. It was only my grandfather telling me he had a rival at Spirit Hall that stopped me. She glanced at Dugu Bo, who smiled sheepishly. He didn't object to her decision. Wait, so Dugu Yan is a fan of Bibi Dong? Hanli caught on quickly and chuckled. It made sense. There weren't many powerful female soul masters on the continent. Bibi Dong was at the top of her game and leading Spirit Hall. No surprise Dugu Yan admired her. Too bad I'm going to disappoint you. Bibi Dong isn't going to give you a good look when you choose to stand by my side. Alright then, Sister Yan, come with us to Spirit Hall. If you want to go to the academy, I'll ask someone to send you there, Hanli agreed easily. Huh? You're not coming to the academy with me? Dugu Yan asked, surprised. The academy? I've visited, but I've never actually gone. And I don't really want to. Hanli said, relaxing. Then how do you usually train? Are you always at home? Dugu Yan asked, curious. Well, Masters built a simulated environment for me to train in, and there are people teaching me all sorts of stuff. I can graduate from the academy any time if I improve my level of practice. For actual combat, I train with Master and Uncle. I've got everything the academy has, and more. What's the point of going? Oh, and I've got a sister who grew up with me. When I get to Spirit Hall, I'll introduce you. If you want to go to the academy, try to convince her to go with you so she doesn't just bury her head in practice all the time. Hanli narrowed his eyes slightly, feeling the breeze on his face, answering her question casually. Your training setup is amazing. No wonder you don't want to go to the academy, Dugu Yan said, sounding a little envious. Her family used to have a simulated training area, but after her father died, Dugu Bo had it shut down. Besides, Dugu Bo wasn't poor, but he wasn't exactly rolling in it. He wasn't great at making money and didn't want to join any organizations. He could afford to support her training, but creating a simulated environment just for her was out of the question. That's why she chose to go to Tiendo Royal Academy, even with a titled grandfather at home. She mostly used their simulated environment. Well, when you get to Spirit Hall, Sister Yan, you can use those resources too. I can't use them all myself. If that isn't suitable, at most you can spend money and have someone build a new simulated environment for you, Hanli offered generously. Is Spirit Hall that rich? Join and get a free simulated environment. Dugu Bo and Dugu Yan looked surprised, staring at the master and apprentice lounging in their chairs like they were looking at gold soul coins. Guangling noticed their stares, opened his eyes, and said, what are you thinking? Shaoli means he can spend his own money to build a simulated environment for you. Chapter 79, Since ancient times, there have been benefits on July 8 and August 9, netizens RN. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Before Dugu Yan could say a word, Dugu Bo jumped in. Is Hanli really that loaded? What do you think? The guy's got more dough than I do now. Of course, he earned every penny himself. He cooked up that secret medicine your granddaughter's taking tomorrow, then sold the recipe to the Spirit Hall. You think he's hurting for cash? Guangling replied casually. Dugu Bo and Dugu Yan exchanged a glance and clammed up. Compared to Hanli, they felt like complete failures. "Hey, uncle, sis Yan, don't listen to my master's nonsense. I only made a little bit. Besides, we're all family now. Don't look down on my humble offering. Sis Yan, going back to Spirit City with us is like leaving home, even if it's just a temporary thing, I'm still willing to do it." Han Li sat up from the recliner, flashing a sincere smile. Dugu Bo and Dugu Yan saw that familiar smile, but it now felt a bit blinding, the gleam of gold coins and cultivation resources. The night passed in silence. When the morning sun broke through the mist and into the ice and fire eyes once more, everyone woke from their meditation. Han Li stretched, working out the kinks in his legs from sitting cross-legged, and headed outside. His spirit aura was stimulated once again, and his recovery was faster than expected. At this rate, he'd be back to full strength in 5 days, tops. Today was the day they were supposed to help Dugu Yan with the secret medicine, so he decided to take it easy. After a quick wash-up, he headed toward the platform. "Morning, uncle, morning, sis Yan." As soon as he poked his head out, he saw them already standing in front of the cabin, waiting. Seeing him arrive, Dugu Bo wasted no time. He turned and jumped down toward the basin below, giving them some space. He was probably going to find Guangling. "Sis Yan, all set." Han Li smiled, turning to confirm things with her. "Don't worry, everything's right here." Dugu Yan patted a pouch hanging from her waist to show she was ready. "All right, let's head inside." Han Li nodded slightly, gesturing toward the cabin behind her. "Okay, little brother." Dugu Yan was definitely a Tiendo Royal Academy type. As she spoke, she winked at him, stepping into the cabin first and wagging a finger at him playfully. Han Li just shrugged and followed her in. They'd gotten pretty comfortable with each other over the past few days, and Han Li was used to her style. Dugu Yan seemed to have two modes. One was when Dugu Bo was around, all well-behaved and ladylike. The other was when they were alone, when she always liked to tease him. It was harmless, so he just went along with it. Inside, Han Li glanced at the hole in the roof, now covered with a piece of transparent glass, and closed the door. "All right, get into bed." Hearing that, Dugu Yan rolled her eyes, but obediently sat cross-legged on the bed, ready for his instructions. "Close your eyes." Dugu Yan did as she was told. The room fell silent, and she felt a warmth in front of her through her eyelids. Then, a pungent smell filled the room, like Han Li had lit something on fire. She didn't open her eyes, but squeezed them tighter. A second later, she heard Han Li's voice again. "Open your mouth." Without thinking, she opened her mouth wide. Ugh! Before she could react, she felt something sticky shoved into her mouth, and her tongue recoiled. It was fishy and hot. That was her first impression. A strange taste spread through her mouth, and she was about to spit it out, but then she heard Han Li's voice again. "Swallow it and start practicing now." Resisting the urge to gag and fighting the awful taste, Dugu Yan swallowed with difficulty, forcing the strange substance down her throat and quickly entering a meditative state. Soon, she felt something different. The thing she'd swallowed quickly turned into a stream of heat inside her, flowing through her limbs and bones, making her stronger. Outside, Han Li glanced at Dugu Yan, noticing that her face was turning red from the effects of the whale gum. The heat was even dampening her clothes. He opened the door and went outside. He relaxed on a nearby lounge chair, feeling the fluctuations of spirit power in the room and soaking up the sun. After about half an hour, the soul power fluctuations in the room began to subside. Just as Han Li was about to get up, the cabin door burst open, and a figure rushed towards him. Han Li quickly stopped getting up and looked up, seeing Dugu Yan standing in front of him, blocking the sun with her body, looking excited. Sis Yan." "Xiao Li, thank you." Dugu Yan grabbed his hand. "Hey, sis Yan, how about you change first, and then we can talk." Han Li touched his nose awkwardly, tilting his head slightly and gesturing to her already damp clothes. A gust of wind blew, and Dugu Yan felt the heat being sucked away from her body, making her shiver. She looked down in surprise and saw that her clothes were almost soaked through, and there was some skin showing. Now she understood why Han Li was acting so weird, and why she felt cold. Her face turned red instantly, and she looked at Han Li, who had turned his head away. She opened her mouth to say something, but couldn't, and she quickly let go of his hand, rushing back into the cabin. Bang star, the cabin door slammed shut behind her, and Hanli turned back, squinting at the sun, then closed his eyes and went back to lying down. To be fair, it wasn't really his fault. He'd told them to prepare the bath water in advance and left the cabin, but who could have guessed that Dugu Yan would run to him like that after her training? Chapter 80, Attack and Defense Change. The snake-shaped flower quietly blooms during the preparation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. More than an hour later, just as Hanli was about to drift off in the warm sunshine, the wooden house creaked open. Dugu Yan, having changed clothes again, walked up to him, face flushed, head lowered. How are you feeling? Hanli asked, pointedly ignoring the earlier awkwardness and getting straight to the point. I feel stronger, but I can't really pinpoint the changes. Dugu Yan replied, relieved he was avoiding the previous mishap, though her cheeks still felt hot. Give me your hand. I'll check how much your soul ring's power has increased. Hanli straightened up, observing the subtly changed girl. Okay. Dugu Yan hesitated for a moment, then extended her hand, as if unwilling to show any weakness. Amused by her resolve, Hanli took her wrist with his left hand and reached along her forearm with his right. He clearly felt her tense up the moment he touched her wrist, then slowly relax. Squeezing her hand and channeling his soul power, he quickly made an estimate and released her hand. Congrats, Sister Yan. Your third soul skill's power has increased by about 450 years, not bad at all. If you keep improving at this rate, you should easily be able to absorb a 4,000-year soul ring in the near future. And if your martial soul evolves successfully later on, your third soul ring should reach 5,000 years, no problem. Hanli stated conservatively. Really 5,000 years? Even after witnessing so many unbelievable things recently, Dugu Yan couldn't help but feel excited at the prospect for herself. You'll be absorbing the immortal grass in a few days and reaching soul master level. You can check it yourself then. Would I lie to you? Hanli chuckled, understanding her excitement. Thanks, Shaoli. Dugu Yan looked up, offering a sincere thanks, only to meet Hanli's gaze. She suddenly felt a strong sense of déjà vu, then remembered saying the exact same thing to him just an hour and a half ago. And what followed? Thinking back, her face flushed again. Just thank you. You're not allowed to mention what happened earlier to anyone. Did something happen? Hanli feigned confusion. No, nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. Dugu Yan stammered, her trembling voice unconvincing even to herself. Oh, okay. See ya. Hanli turned halfway and waved. You. Dugu Yan began, but couldn't think of a reason to call him back. Don't worry, Sister Yan, I didn't see a thing. Hanli said, turning around with a smile just as he reached the edge of the platform, before leaping down without waiting for a response. Get lost. Ugh. Dugu Yan stared at the empty platform, then furiously punched the air a few times, as if hitting someone, before squatting down, burying her face in her knees. Lost in thought, she didn't even realize that her anger and embarrassment had lessened as she punched, replaced by the memory of his slightly mischievous smile before he jumped. Leaving the platform, Hanli headed directly towards where the master was practicing. Hearing Dugu Bo's laughter as he approached, he quickened his pace and walked closer. The two seemed to be in high spirits, playing chess. Dugu Bo had just laughed because he was winning, while Guangling frowned deeply, pondering his next move, constantly distracted by Dugu Bo's banter. Spotting Hanli, Dugu Bo's eyes lit up. He immediately abandoned his harassment of Guangling and turned to Hanli. All done. How'd it go? Where's Yan Yan? All done. Sister Yan responded well to the secret medicine. This time alone, her third soul ring's upper limit increased by about 450 years. With a few more sessions and the evolution of her martial soul, she should be able to absorb a 5,000-year soul ring, Hanli replied with a smile. Sister Yan's resting now. Come on, Shaoli, sit down. You've worked hard. Dugu Bo pulled Han Li over, produced a chair, and practically forced him to sit, his handsome face creased with smiles. "It's no problem, it's what I should do." Han Li replied, a bit unconvincingly, thinking of the earlier events. Guang Ling, who knew him well, sensed his lack of sincerity. He glanced at Han Li but saw nothing unusual, then returned to his chess. Dugu Bo was clearly a much better chess player than Guang Ling. Han Li, though unable to understand the game, could tell from his master's miserable expression as Dugu Bo continued to distract and defeat him. In the end, Guang Ling made an excuse to go eat dinner and dramatically swept the chessboard aside, finally depriving Dugu Bo of his victory. The good times always flew by. Han Li continued to help Dugu Yan refine whale gum each morning, while the others practiced separately in the afternoons. Soon, a week had passed. This morning, after Dugu Yan took the whale glue and Han Li tested it, he stopped the process. "Have you reached your limit?" Dugu Yan asked, also noticing that the improvement wasn't as significant as before. "Yeah, it's barely reached 4,200 years. Your body's temporarily become resistant to the secret medicine. Even if you keep taking it in the short term, there won't be much improvement. The excess power of the medicine is still hidden inside you, ready to be released along with the evolution of your martial soul." Han Li released her hand and said seriously. "Okay, then I'm counting on you. When do we start?" Dugu Yan looked at Han Li expectantly, a little impatient. "It's best to rest well today and let your body relax. We'll start again tomorrow." Han Li replied. "What's this? Sounds like you're a little reluctant to leave here." Dugu Yan teased, playfully bumping his shoulder and whispering into his ear. "Cut it out." Han Li frowned, removing her hand from his shoulder and patting her arm, telling her to cool down. Ever since that day, Dugu Yan seemed to have thrown caution to the wind, becoming increasingly bold around him. She went from teasing with words to flirting with touch, showing no resistance to physical contact. "Don't mess around." Han Li angrily took her hand off his shoulder, signaling her to be more serious.